The universe communicates with us in symbols, and that is what makes African masks very special. To the untrained eyes, the mask is just a piece of art. But to those who know, every mask tells a story, and my goal is to help you learn all you can about what African masks mean and help you make sense of that very piece that you own. So my guess is you found this video because you have interest in African masks and you probably possess a piece or you're planning to acquire a piece. Well, if that's the case, then welcome to the Service Africa YouTube channel. My name is Michael, and for content on African masks and African dance, click on the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon so you know every time we make new content. And if you'd like to get a lot of information in one place, I'd like you to see the link in the description for my book, Within Carved Lines. And in that book you can learn about pretty much everything about African masks. So colors are a very important part of every mask. Sometimes it's just black, sometimes it's white, and sometimes it's all kinds of colors. But what do they really mean? And that's what we're going to delve into in this video. The most controversial thing people want to talk about when they think colors are the big two, the black and the white. What does it mean? To understand colorations, we have to look at the cultures from where the masks come from. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of African masks in existence, and lots of these come from different cultures, which means that what one might mean would be a lot different from what the other means. So I am by no means trying to say that everything I say here applies to every culture in Africa, but I think that the things that I say here would apply to a lot of cultures in Africa, because to some who still don't realize this, Africa is not one country, we're not one people, we're not one nation, we don't have one culture, one language, and so it's a great mix of 1,000 languages and cultures, as I love to say. So what does the color black mean? Since we're considered black people because we're colored this way, well, technically we're not black. This would be a black ring if you can see this, but this isn't black at all. The color black for us would mean something interesting. Yeah, it would mean life. Black represents the color of the living, white represents the color of the dead. And that is why if you've seen some of the older movies from Nigeria and some of the African countries, when ghosts appear, they have their faces painted white. It's also common to have people have part of their bodies covered in white powder when they undergo certain initiation rites. And white chalk is a very important part of many spiritual practices across Africa, because it shows a connection to the spiritual world, to the world of the dead, to the world of the ancestors, which of course is a very important practice everywhere across Africa. Yeah, we love to connect to nature, to our environment, to the people who've come before us, to our ancestors. So the color white connects us to that which is beyond life. So when a shaman or spiritualist puts white chalk around their eyes, it is an indication that this is the eye of the gods, or these eyes see beyond the realm of the living and is able to transcend into spiritual realms. When a mask is colored black, does it make it evil? No. It might be an indication that this is the mask of an ancestor, a mask of someone who lives or someone who used to live, because we're existing in one continuum. That's why we have the circle of life. As it was, so is, and so will be. That sounds very Catholic. But then that was most definitely African first. It's the circle of life. Everything is interconnected. But then maybe if we wanted to make a mask for some spirit entity, then maybe we might want to color it white, or we might want to put aspects of white and black to show the connection between the living and the dead, or the world of the living and the world of the spirits. As it's known in many spiritual circles as above, so below, or as we say in the Christian Lord's Prayer, let your will be done on earth as it's in heaven. I think they all point to the same thing, showing the unity of the divine and humanity. So the way we see the color black and white are not exactly very different. They're two sides of the same coin. They're part of the same duality. They're the same color, but only perceived differently, because we all are able to transcend from the black to the white and from the white back to the black. Sometimes we're also closely mixed, like the yin and the yang, that is difficult to separate us all. But then, why do people see black in such a negative light when it actually isn't? Right? Because the black is the creative force, and I'll explain what I mean by that. When a baby is conceived for 9 months, it lives in darkness in the womb, and when people are born into life, they are born blind. Most children are unable to see when they come into the world, and the reason is because life grows, develops, life forms in darkness. When you plant a seed in the soil, it germinates in darkness and then it grows. So every time something is exposed to the light, it begins its journey back to the place of death. So as soon as you begin to see light, you begin to experience the world, your aging process begins. And if we were to look at it from a biblical perspective, in the beginning, when the world was without form and was void, darkness covered the earth, and the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the waters. And in that darkness, the Spirit, which is a symbol for maleness, over the waters, the symbol of femaleness, came together and gave rise to earth and all living things. And maybe that is why in many African cultures they believe that the sexual act that leads to procreation should happen only at night in the cover of the dark. Why is sleep called recreation? Because when you're out in the sun, you wear yourself out. But then under the cover of the darkness, your youth returns, your energy returns. When you close your eyes and sleep, your body regenerates. That's when you grow. That's when you become stronger. That's when your health returns. So the creative power, the healing power, the power to connect to the higher levels of consciousness is in the darkness. And that is why when you meditate, you close your eyes. You go back in the darkness, and then sometimes you ask, okay, imagine the light, but then you're imagining the light from the darkness, because the light that comes from the darkness is usually the greatest light. So the light you see in your soul, in your higher self, at the point when your physical eyes are close to the light of this world, is the one that leads you to salvation. And I know that for some who are Christians who might have been told that the darkness is the time when the spiritual force is active, that is falsehood, because the truth is, under the cover of the dark, all spiritual energies are heightened. Christians want to pray in the night because then they say, midnight prayers are very powerful. And then if you were about in Africa, you see lots of crusades and seminars and programs happen in the dead of the night, midnight, and people are praying and calling on God. And then in the Orthodox religions, every time there's a great feast, there's Easter or Christmas, is going to be a vigil mass, because we have to tap into the powers of the night. When you look at all of these conversations and more, because I think it'd be difficult to discuss all of these in one video, but based off of what you've heard, what do you think? Do you think black is darkness and evil, or do you think black is awesome? Because I think black is awesome. I think the darkness is great. And he who must be master of himself must learn to master both the light and the darkness. So don't limit yourself to one experience. If you're white, experience the black. And if you're black, experience the white, because then we're all one, we're all united. And next time you see an African mask that has black and white, that is balance. because it incorporates a bit of everything. So how about you go in the comment section and let me know if a lot of what I said just made sense, and if you enjoy this content, feel free to give us a like and share this content with whoever would find it very interesting. And if you're still not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, so you're notified every time we make new content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.